What's
What
up?
is up, my brother?
Not much. I beat you to it on the first one. I had
Yeah, you
to
did.
jump in there.
How you doing, man?
I'm doing well, man. No problems. Training. I had a little bit of a. I got my first post. I'm gonna call it post COVID. I had my first post COVID cold recently.
Oh, really?
So yeah, so I got. I think it happened like maybe Thursday or Wednesday or Thursday. I got a little bit of a scratchy throat, and I was like, "Oh man, this is not good. Like this feels kind of like a cold." And then the next day, so I think it was Thursday. The next day, my nose opened up and it was just like a faucet.
Really?
And so that night, I went to bed with a roll of toilet paper right on my nightstand.
Mm-hmm.
The next day, that had stopped, and then my sore throat went away, and I was fine. It was like a 3 or 4 day, kind of from start to finish.
Yeah.
All good.
That's good.
But
Nothing major.
I was making jokes. I was like, man, I think what I used was my bitch ass immune system hasn't been exposed to anything over the past basically year and a half, and so now people are going back and
that's true.
Things are people are going back out, no masks. People are coughing and sneezing and opening doors, and
you're gonna get some of that. You're
for gonna get some of that. So I was, which it's good. I want my immune system to be exposed to that stuff, but it was my first cold.
First go of it. Knock on wood, I haven't had any. I don't know. I haven't had anything. I think wearing the mask for the big part of that year was helpful in that regard.
Yeah.
Like flus were non-existent. Like people didn't have a cold. Something to be said about that.
For sure.
Disinfecting people staying away. But now it's opening back up. But I'm still just trying to take my vitamins and keep up everything, because you let your guard down or you wreck your body sometimes with food or alcohol or something, and it's like your immune system takes a hit, and next thing you know.
My wife was asking me. She was like, she asked me, which isn't a huge deal. She's like, you want to go out to dinner, grab some food or something. I was like, I don't really want to go out. I'm kind of sick. I've got a cold. I don't really want to go out, And if I do, I was like, okay, well, I'll take a mask if we go out or something, and I'll just wear a mask, no big deal, and try not to expose anybody else to it. But I didn't end up going out. Once everything kind of looked like it was resolving, it was back to normal. But called everybody. I was like, hey guys, can't train. Got a cold. Don't want to expose you guys. So
yeah, that's smart. That's what we should all be doing, just being careful about that stuff. So
I think we've said it before, if there's one thing that came out of that, it was hopefully people aren't showing up to the gym with sick and with runny nose, cough, all that type of stuff. So I think that was good to be a little bit more aware of, because we've talked about it before on the podcast. It happens. People show up with colds. So anyway,
to gi or not to gi?
That is the question.
Man,
a little bit of both.
Exactly. We're just talking about training gi and no gi. It's like a huge point of discussion that we haven't really talked about here on the podcast. But you have the two camps. You have everything from the amateur, the 10th Planet schools where it's strictly no-gi jiu-jitsu, to all the way up to, you got your basic schools that some are all gi, some are all no-gi, and you kind of pick your path and pick what style you like when you first enter into jiu-jitsu, and it could just be your experience, I mean, and that goes all the way up to the pro levels. Obviously most pro events are no gi now. I think it's just a faster pace, more exciting. I mean, that's obviously what we're seeing. Fast pace, more exciting, submission only grappling. That I think it lends well to viewership. Who was it? Was it Gordon that said gi jiu-jitsu is dead on the JRE podcast?
Yeah.
I think we talked about that before, but I think in his world, it makes sense to say that, because in professional grappling, you don't see a ton of as much gi, let's say, in the bigger events, right? I mean, like we talked about the BJJ Bet, BJJ Stars, Brazilian organizations, they're all going to be traditionally more gi, right?
Yep.
Gi, pro gi events. But over in America, you're getting these no gi events they're much bigger. So it'll be interesting to see how that lends itself to the fans or more fandom. It's like, are people going to start training more no-gi jiu-jitsu right off the bat because they see Gordon Ryan, the greatest, air quotes, the greatest grappler ever, definitely in no-gi, he's just so accomplished. You're watching this guy. Does that make you go and want to start training no-gi jiu-jitsu immediately? Are you going out and searching a no-gi gym? It's interesting because we've already been in the game for so long, but those are the things I was thinking about. It's like, are no-gi classes in schools going to keep advancing? I think they are, It definitely, since I've trained at our gym, it's like a 180, Yeah. Where there was, I don't even know if we had no-gi when I started at our gym.
Yeah.
Do you recall? I don't think
it
so.
Didn't
several
have
years back.
Yeah.
No.
It didn't.
Now it's huge.
Yeah.
Like, it's a very popular class in our gym. It's every day. Some days multiple times a day.
And they have an early bird.
Yeah, they do it in the mornings on one day a week. That's where I try to get some no-gi training in. It's like, I've always obviously mostly trained in the gi, but training no-gi, I really like it, man. It's fun. It's completely different, right? Mm-hmm. But I've only been doing it, trying to get in once a week for that, but I feel like it's one of those things, and this is kind of what we were talking about, or what we will talk about, is what are the differences? And, if you haven't done one versus the other, you might be in the dark, right? What is no-gi? Is it completely different? Yeah, it's a lot different, You don't have like, first of all, I think you don't have the grips. That's a big, you have different grips, let's say, So you don't have that friction of the gi. So the game moves a lot faster. 100%,
Yeah.
It's moving more fast. It's faster. It's slipperier. It's less technical. Not to say it's not technical, but it's less technical. That's a no-brainer. When you have the gi, there's just so much more you have to think about and worry about in terms of technique. Because someone can just lock you down in a position where no-gi, it wouldn't be an issue, name it, whatever it is, it's, just think of when you're in close guard, just as a basic position, you close guard no-gi, that you can probably think of your options, right?
Oh yeah.
Yeah. More arm bars, triangle, movement, sweep. Now think of it in the gi. It's all that, but now you have all the lapel chokes, all the breaking of the posture with the collar grips.
Yeah.
It's like completely different, and so you have different things to work on. But I don't even think it's definitely for the amateur. 100%. It's for the amateur. They complement each other pretty well. I really like them. I do obviously gi way more, but it gives you a different look and aspect of the game, and it probably makes you focus on certain things more. Where like in no-gi, you might be doing more wrestling type takedowns versus in the gi, you're going to be doing more guard pulls and judo stuff.
Yeah.
Maybe, not more, but that's more available. So,
Yeah.
What's your feeling on it?
I mean, it's all of it. I primarily play gi. It's just I started in like 2008 or 2009 at a school that didn't have any no gi. Went to another school, didn't have no gi, and it kind of started coming up. Admittedly, my no gi game is miles behind my gi game.
Yeah,
you know,
mine too.
So, and I probably enjoy the gi a little bit more.
Yeah,
like it's probably because
it's what you know.
My,
it's what
it's what I know.
Yeah.
It's the way that I came up.
Mm-hmm.
But these people that are these new white belts, blue belts, purple belts that are coming into jiu-jitsu now, or maybe probably not so much purple belts, but because they've probably been in it for a while, but they're coming into these gyms that they have access to gi and no gi classes, and most of these guys and gals are probably doing both.
Mm-hmm.
They're probably doing gi and no gi.
Yeah,
and so I think
that's what I kind of see in other gyms, like on social media and stuff for younger people. I'm seeing because they, like you said, they have that choice.
Yeah.
So why not dabble in both or try, see which one fits. So if you're new, you want to go and check it out, try both. It's gonna be, you're gonna have to give them both the honest shot.
Yeah.
That's another thing. It's like, you'd probably agree. I think the biggest thing is like, they are almost separate arts in a way.
Yep.
Can you do both effectively, or is it better to stick with one or the other to better your skills? So that's, I don't know the answer to that. I think it depends on how much you're training, and obviously I'll say this, like you said, I'm a much lower belt in no gi than gi. Mm-hmm. So that doesn't mean I can't roll and train in gi or no gi and do fine. But if I have someone, especially in our school, the guys that train specifically no gi, and there's several of them, like I don't have much of a chance when I'm rolling with them.
Yeah.
Because they just start getting to the leg game, which I'm so new at in no gi. Mm-hmm. I have leg skills in the gi, straight ankle lock, knee bar, that type of stuff. But when you start getting into like the whole heel hook game, I'm just like, I'm a novice,
Yeah.
So I'm learning from my coach Josh once a week, no gi, trying to just pick up the basics, pick up the positioning, get to know the escapes. And he recognizes as a coach that our crew in the morning is probably definitely less skilled than just the no-gi class at night, because that's where all the killers go that do leg work all the time. So we're always working leg stuff now in the morning class. It might be once a week, but at least it's something you can drill through and get used to and figure out that aspect of the game. So it's fun. It's a little scary sometimes, and because even like training these last couple of weeks in no-gi, just setting up the heel hooks and stuff, for me, like even the slightest twinge, I can feel like a little bit in my knee still. Mm-hmm. This is a year later after my injury, because I'm just not put in that position as much, so I have to be careful, and everyone has to be careful.
Yeah, those heel hooks can be vicious, man.
Exactly. So, IBJJF is allowing that now in the adult divisions in brown and black belt, I think. Yeah. So I had thought it was all divisions, and one of my friends said, no, they don't do that in masters. So I guess masters. So I don't have to worry about it if I was to compete in that organization. But I personally, the way I approach training jiu-jitsu and learning the art is that I just want to be well-rounded all the way around as a black belt, mm-hmm. and maybe that takes many, many years, and it will take many, many years. But, I don't want to be so far behind the game because the professional game is moving so quickly. Just think of the leg lock game and what that's done to change jiu-jitsu.
Yeah.
It just opens up a whole nother side why ignore 50% of your body? You know,
Right.
it's like the Dean Lister quote, but
Yeah.
that is what it is. It just changes the whole game. So you have to, if you're training no-gi, you have to know that part of the game. You can't just go in. Now, I can do decent with my traditional, but once someone that's a skilled leg locker starts really getting underneath and getting to where I don't know all of the different entries, I'm in trouble.
Yeah.
Because once you're in those positions, it's, you know, it's a very fast,
it gets twisted up pretty.
Yeah, you got to get out or tap, you know, so. It's a challenge, though. I like that challenge. So as a somebody that's been in the game a long time, if you're listening, you know, it's a good challenge to take on. You know, is to try to learn a different aspect of the game.
You know, we were talking. When we had Patrick on the show, he was talking about coming up in Brazil. They didn't. I mean, he's a black belt. They didn't really attack the feet a lot, and he traveled, got to the U.S. excuse me, and in no-gi, it was no problem to attack the feet. Not disrespectful, not mean.
Yeah.
It's just a part of what, you know, how the game here has progressed, and I think it's everywhere now, obviously. So you kind of see that.
You saw the full circle.
Progression. It comes all the way around. And so he, you know, for him, he's talking about, I have to learn. I'm doing no-gi, so I have to learn this new system. I have to learn this heel hooks and all that stuff. And man, I don't want to say that I'm afraid of heel hooks, but I respect them greatly.
Yeah, exactly.
Especially, you know, they come on really fast, and you don't feel them until something is gone incredibly awry. Inside your knee. And you know, I picked up an athlete last week who was training with a new grappler. It was no-gi. They were going like 30-40%, transition to 50-50. And as he was transitioning to 50-50, this new grappler, like white belt status grappler, grabbed a heel hook and like ripped it. And
wow.
He tore his knee apart. He tore all the inside stuff, which is the bad stuff that you don't want to rip. So, you know, I hear like it. Yeah, man,
that's disappointing.
It's super disappointing.
That shouldn't have happened
at all.
I mean, I guess it does happen, but for a white belt, I mean, we have at our school. G was very adamant and hesitant to start into this game definitely with white belts attacking heel hooks.
Yeah.
So I don't know how our coaches manage it because I'm not in those classes, but I think they probably talk to people and they have to know that they can trust a person. If it's a white belt that's been training a while, that you're going to catch and release, you know?
Yeah.
I'm a brown belt. I'm skilled in jiu-jitsu, you know? And even when I get the heel hook on someone, I'm like very careful and very aware that just one little tweak with my 205-pound body, you know, I can wreck somebody's next 6 months.
Yeah,
so,
shoot.
Or more.
Or more.
You know, and I've had that knee injury that was from something to that effect, and it's not fun, you know. It's not fun. That's not a fun injury. Just knees in general, you know. So that's why it's been somewhat outlawed in certain organizations, because it's a dangerous position. And some people say it's no more dangerous than something else, but it's dangerous because the skill level isn't taught at the basic level, you know. Arm bars are dangerous too, but we're learning arm bar defenses and escapes and how to not to get at them from day one, you know.
Yeah.
So no, and that's the point. If you're learning jiu-jitsu, no-gi jiu-jitsu from day one, and they're teaching you leg entry systems, heel hooks, that you're probably going to be more skilled at not even getting into those positions, or at least escaping them, right? Than someone like myself, who I didn't even start training no-gi until I was a purple belt, you know. So for real, I mean, for any consistency. So yeah, man, it's.
I think a great example of that is the Ryan Hall BJ Penn fight.
Yeah.
Um,
Perfect
so
example.
It's
An
BJ
expert
Penn
versus
is
a novice in the leg game.
In the leg game. And if you go back and watch that fight, so Ryan Hall Imanari's, he does an Imanari entry, goes into his heel hook entry, and he grabs the heel hook. And if you watch the way that BJ Penn rolls and defends, he rolled the wrong direction.
Mm-hmm.
So if you watch him, he rolls over the top, but it made the heel hook tighter. So when you defend the heel hook, you have to roll with the direction that they're pulling towards.
Right.
And so it's it feels different at first, like the way that to defend it. But if you watch what BJ Penn does, he rolls against it. And if you think about like the mechanics of the knee, he basically rolled into the heel hook to make it tighter, and it ended up it was
someone I know might have done the same thing to my knee. I might have done that same thing to my knee in the past, I did do that a couple times. Yeah. One led to an injury. I mean, that's kind of how I got injured, is just not understanding the position, One of the first times one of my coaches threw on a heel hook when I was training, I felt like, because I didn't even know to clear the knee line. I was just very much a novice in that position, So I was like, I came up on, it was kind of, we were in a seated position, and luckily he's really good at heel hooks and stuff. So, and he knew I wasn't, so he wasn't. He just threw it on. He wasn't cranking it. He just kind of held it there, and I almost felt like I was in a straight ankle lock position, where if I come up on my foot or come up and pull him in, close the distance, that's what I should be doing. That's not what you should be doing. As soon as I did that, my knee popped.
Yeah.
This isn't my injury, but this is one of the first times I trained, and it was loud. Thankfully, it was just whatever that is that pops. It was very loud, but at least it was just like 1 week of soreness, and that was it. Mm-hmm. But that was a lesson to me. I was like, oh, I had no idea. I shouldn't be closing the distance there. I need to be turning in the correct direction, escaping the knee line, getting my knee out of there. So that opened my eyes tremendously a few years ago when I started training Nogi, and I'm like, I got to learn this. I don't want to be a black belt and not know this part of the game. That doesn't make sense to me. At least understand the basics, and I might not be an expert or be training all the time, but I need to at least be able to get out of a certain position or prevent getting there, But it's also a great challenge, and it's fun, that part of it. And that's not all of no-gi. We're just talking specifically the leg game. Yeah. But a lot of roles I get into, especially if you're neither one of you are leg lockers, it becomes jiu-jitsu without the gi. Faster pace, probably more escapes. You got to have different types of control. It's fun, but it's talk about cardio, man. You can't slow the game down in that as much in no-gi, So
yeah, man. The first time I competed, I was really worried about this. So I've told this story around here fairly recently, but I did I think it was the Masters Cup, and I got promoted to brown belt the week before that tournament. And so I was like, I was all comfortable. I was going to compete at purple belt. I was like, this, no big deal.
Yeah. Got
brown belt, put in my change form, all of that. Josh, we've mentioned him Josh Rodriguez, great, awesome coach. Also very skilled in the leg game. And he came up to me at the tournament. He was coaching me. And he just came up to me and he said, don't worry about the leg locks. You know how to defend foot locks. Don't worry about the knee bars and stuff. Just make sure his hips are below your knee and you're safe. Mm-hmm. And it was like the best piece of advice I could have got at the time, because it was super simple and it was like very actionable.
Yeah.
If that's right. That's great. It's like, okay, perfect. It took all of the nervousness out. It was like I had an instant defense. Okay, just keep his hips below my knee. Done. Yeah. I can do that. And now that's like not only a piece of advice that I give people, but I'm constantly thinking about, like, when I'm getting in positions for things, like if I like berimbolo, or I'm, do some sort, whatever I'm doing, I'm always thinking about like where his hips are in relationship to my knee. Mm-hmm. So if somebody's, I've had a training partner, he'll try and, like, if I invert, he'll like try and pull my knee through, and I'm just like, nope, you're no way, not allowing that. Like, I'm gonna guard it, and make sure, So it was like the best piece of advice, and that is like something that I have put into place throughout my whole, for the last 3 years that I've been defending knee bars. It's like, okay, cool, I'm fine. My hips are below my knees. Yeah. Perfect.
It's good advice.
It was great advice, and it really helped me at the moment when I'm a new brown belt. Nerves are like getting the best of me. The guy I'm going against is clearly, I mean, if he's got more than 1 week as a brown belt, he's more seasoned than me in that skill level, so that was perfect. Nice. I could not have asked for any better advice at that moment. So
it's a different game when you start, so you got to work on that. If you're a purple belt, you got to start thinking about, if you're in the gi, you start thinking about toe holds and knee bars, and start working them. If your gym allows it. There's gyms out there where they don't really have a restriction on colored belts. As long as you're skilled, you can do the move. And in our gym, we try to, just because, you have a lot of students, it's hard to gauge everyone in the room and what their skill level is on every single different position, right? So there's some blanket rules where, if you're a higher belt, you can do those types of moves. Lower belt, no. It's IBJJF rules kind of in our gym per se, guidelines, I should say. It doesn't mean, I don't think when you're a purple belt, you're a seasoned purple belt, that you should not be doing or getting into those positions, because it's not like magic. I'm a brown belt now, I'm going to start working. It's like, you got to at least start thinking about that stuff. And there's a lot, so even there's just so much it's just another few moves that maybe you're more allowed to do in competition that you have to work on, because somebody else is going to be working those on you. Yeah.
I'm not saying for people to break the rules, but if you're a 3 or 4 stripe purple belt and you're trying to do that, and you have a brown belt training partner. Yeah. I'm not advocating for anybody to go against their gym rules. But at the same time, if you have 2 people that are in agreement, hey, we're going to open up legs, make it pretty clear, knee bars, toe holds, they're all on board, then that's the rule set you can roll in between 2 people. Like, if you and I, different belt colors, purple belt, brown belt, and I'm coming to you, hey, I really want to start looking at this game. Can we open up the legs and explore a little bit?
Yeah, for sure.
Then it changes things, because you have two partners, both on the same page with the same rule set, and it's more of like
close in skill level.
In skill level, and clearly, like, when you have that conversation, there's a clear trust that's involved. Like, don't rip my damn feet off, but feel free to attack. Just allow me some time to defend. So,
well, that's the unfortunate thing about that story with the white belt. You said, it's like,
I know,
because even at our gym, I know Josh in particular, guys, I've heard him say before, it's like, if you're an upper belt, go ahead and make your attacks, even on lower belts, because you should know how to put on the submission, Yeah. I mean, if you're a brown belt and you're working toe holds and knee bars and stuff, and you're no gi or whatever, and you can do that against a blue belt. And so in my what I'm saying is, like, there's been times where I've heard coaches say, if you're an upper belt, you can do that to a blue belt, but the blue belt can't do that to you. And maybe that seems unfair, but the point is that you are skilled. One person is skilled and knows when to release or how to do this specific hold, and the other isn't, Yeah. And that is exactly why in IBJJF there's different skills throughout the belt colors. You know, I don't know what they are anymore, but I know there's a couple things you can't do at a white belt that maybe you can do at a blue belt. Maybe they've changed some of that, but it's hard to monitor all of that because you have every gym's different too, right? It's like some places are just like go do your thing, and like people are just training like savages, and you know, and they just take the injuries as they come. You know, hey, that's just a risk of doing this type of jiu-jitsu. And I don't know what like 10th Planet does or if they restrict people when they're new on doing things, but you know, you got to learn the correct technique. The point of holding people back is just to make sure that they don't do what that white belt did. Mm-hmm. You know, you're just going full blast. You know, it's no-gi. Especially if you're a white belt, you don't want this guy to get one over on you. Maybe you've been training enough, but hey, and everything just gets intensified, and then you put that move on, and you got to let people tap in that position in training. This isn't the world's, you know. You got to give them the chance. That's just that's just unfortunate. I just hate seeing that.
Oh, it's brutal. And you know, he took it. He's got a good attitude with everything, and you know, he kind of told me, he's like, you know, I should have defended it. I should have done this. Like, no, not really. You should have. You guys are going 30-40%, and then when somebody snatches up a heel and cranks it, it's like you didn't do anything
hard.
wrong.
We weren't there,
you know?
So you don't know what happened, you know. But it's one of those things. You either defend it quickly and escape, or you tap. You don't sit there in the position and let him crank it. But who knows? The guy could have just thrown it on and just ripped it. You know, that happens too. So we weren't there, but all the more reason why you should be cognizant of that and take care of your training partner. I mean, geez. I know our coaches, you know, are very specifically tell people, you know, it's like, take care of your training partner. Take care of your training partner.
It's like, right, every time it goes live.
Yeah.
It's like, take care of your training partners. Which I think is a good reminder.
Yeah, it is. We need those people to do this. And, man, getting a knee injury, it's not, I can speak from experience. It's a mental, you know, it's hard to come back. You know, it's just mentally, it's just a fucking struggle. You know, it's like, God damn it. It's because you just can't do anything until it's completely healed. So you're out of the game.
Yeah. Yeah. They're rough. I feel like I've gotten really good at evaluating and treating knees, and
you see a lot of them.
I see a lot of knee injuries, and you know, all different types of stuff and mechanisms, and some things need this, some things need other stuff, but man, knees take a beating in jiu-jitsu.
Yeah, for sure.
Especially, you know, when you're wrestling and you're constantly dropping on a knee, it's like beating the very front of your knees. So like that pain is different than something else, and knees in jiu-jitsu take a beating. They take a beating.
Yeah. I'm always careful of my knees, so I've always done two things. I'm very careful on the amount of weight I lift at the gym that puts pressure on my knees. Because I just know a lot of old weightlifter dudes, and their knees are just, they're strong as shit, but their knees are so fucked up.
Yeah.
You know? And it's like, well, in jiu-jitsu, I don't want that. It's already a dangerous sport for your knees. You know, so I just kind of like try to keep everything strong in that regard, you know, and not overdo it and put too much weight on my knees. But also when I'm grappling, I've always worn knee pads. So I try to from time to time, I'll post on my social media, or I'll tell some of the guys in the gym, I'm like, have you ever tried knee pads? You know, because it's like a game changer, dude, in training. I don't know if you've ever worn them, but you have to have the right one. You have to have the right ones. You know, I get these ones from Amazon. They're like $15. There's no hardness. It's not plastic at all. It's all just foam, and they last, you know, 6 months, whatever. $30 investment. You get a couple pairs a year. These things have saved me tremendously because when I'm training no-gi, I can tell the difference. I'm like, you know what I mean? In no-gi, there's no pads. I'm not wearing pads in no-gi, so I'm just hitting my knees on the mats. Well, in the gi, man, just that little bit of foam saves my ass. And it's not, I've worn them in competition. I've always worn them every time I've ever trained. So they're not like bulky or anything. You know, it's very streamlined and it's just a nice form-fitted pad on your knee, and man, it helps a lot. It helps so much, and especially if you're the type of player like I would say us, but at least me, if you're an older, a master person that plays from your knees a lot, you know, maybe you're not on your feet or on your toes and doing dynamic passing all the time, but you know, I like a lot of knee playing from your knees, pressure passing, you know, side control type stuff, you know, you're always on your knees, so I recommend that. If you don't use them, go find yourself some and start trying to use them and see how it feels. You know, I even if it, for me, it's even if it prevents, you know what I mean, the wear and tear. That's really where I start wearing them. You know, so maybe you might not feel a difference, but your knees will feel a difference in 5 years. You know what I mean? If you start wearing them, so I highly recommend them, man. It's I'm actually kind of shocked how many guys don't wear them. I don't know. I've always worn them. So, since I was probably a white belt, and I always get the same ones, and they're solid, man. So, check them out. That's one thing you can do underneath your gi, and it'll kind of save some. You know, I wish I had some kind of thing for my elbows.
Yeah,
maybe not pounding my elbows, but just, you know what I mean. So any type of, I feel like my elbows and my knees and my shoulders take the brunt of all. That's always what's hurting with me, those joints. Shoulders, elbows, knees. So my knees, though, give me the less amount of problems. They just do. I just try to keep them the safest. You know, I'm not doing a lot of no-gi, heel hooking. You know, it's maybe once a week. So that's probably a big part of it. My elbows seem to have, and shoulders seem to get flared up the most in terms of tendonitis. So knee pads, man.
Yeah, you know, I tell people if, you know, when I rehab people, when there's a knee injury, I always have people doing hamstring work. Hamstrings, you can never have hamstrings they will never be strong enough for what your knees need to do. And the reason why it's so important, so there's actually some research out there that when there's a knee injury, one of the, it's called a flexor mechanism. There's some research out there that shows like the hamstrings, they get a little bit weaker after a knee injury. So it's just a part of posterior chain, glutes, hamstrings, calves. That stuff always gets worked hard when I'm rehabbing somebody's knee injury. And so if you're having knee pain, first thing I would always start with is hamstring work. You know, you cannot have, and you know, those are super important for ACL protection. So the ACL prevents the tibia, the bottom bone of the knee, from going forward on the femur. So it protects that forward. It's called translation, where it pushes forward. So if you've seen people on like football, when they get the football injuries and you see the guy goes out and he starts jerking forward on the knee, he's testing his ACL to see if it's still intact. And so what the hamstrings do is they attach at your hip. They're what's called a two-joint muscle. So they cross two joints. They cross the hip and they cross the knee. So they're actually a pretty cool muscle because they control both hip extension and knee flexion.
So they're important.
So they're super, super, super important. So, and they're really important based on like protecting your ACL, specifically your ACL.
Yeah.
Because not your ACL, like I was saying, it prevents the knee from the bottom part of the knee from going forward. Well, your hamstrings are what pulls that back, also keeping the knee from going forward. So, for the listeners, hopefully that was helpful. If you're having knee pain, man, get those hamstrings super, super, super strong. And I'm not saying your knee pain is going to go away, but you can't have hamstrings that are too strong in jiu-jitsu. It'll help your hips.
Keep them strong.
Keep them strong.
Yeah.
keep them strong. So there's a million ways to do that, but you cannot have hamstrings that are too strong for jiu-jitsu. So,
Yeah.
man, I really recommend that for keeping people's ACLs healthy and keeping them intact and keeping your knees stable and like locked in.
Yeah.
So,
I mean, there's something to be said about strength training to prevent injury, right?
man,
I mean,
it's the only I have
to have a
posted
strong
this.
body, it's
Man.
so important. It's
If you go to my Instagram, like I probably post it once every 2 or 3 months, and all it says is being strong is the only injury or the only metric of injury prevention. So being strong is the only metric of injury prevention. There's no CBD, nothing is going to get you strong enough to do the things that you need to do on the mat.
Yeah.
To stay healthy and less likely to get injured. You have like a few stabilizing structures. So you have ligaments and tendons. Those are stabilizing structures that are right next to the joint. But the most part of a joint being stable is what's happening with the muscles. Like, think about all the meat that crosses joints. Those are all stabilizing structures.
Yeah, exactly.
So, you screw up maybe a rotator cuff or something. Yeah, you have to load that tendon and get it strong, get the tendon itself strong. But you have to get everything else around that joint strong too, because you want to take the load off of all. You don't want one specific thing doing a big job.
Yeah.
Like, so you want all of those structures, muscles to be strong. So there's no other injury prevention. Strength, you have to be strong. So, like you're saying, man, there's something to be said about strength training and the importance of, and it doesn't have to be complicated. You know, it does not have to be complicated.
Even the most basic exercises in strength training, I mean, for people that don't do it, just think about that. Let's say you don't ever do strength training on your legs, You're getting training in jiu-jitsu. You are strengthening. I mean, you definitely get strength training in jiu-jitsu. Marcelo Garcia, who's very proud that he doesn't ever do a strength training. Now he's a specimen, and he's also on the mat grappling every single day of his life. So, and I don't know what his injury history is, but just take someone like a regular amateur grappler, that might be starting out in your first 2-3 years. If you aren't doing any strength training, whether it's your elbows, your shoulders, your knees, let's take your knees, for example. Even if you just incorporate one day a week of doing a leg press, leg extension, leg curl, most simple, basic machines that have always existed. Guess why they've always existed? Because they work. They're basic and they build muscle in those very in the simplest way. You don't have to do some dynamic, crazy workout. I'm a big fan of just traditional strength training, isolation exercises. That's just what I've always done. And for this purpose, I'm not here to be an Olympic lifter or a deadlift this much weight or squat this much weight or go for this record. But I can tell you, like, from head to toe, my body's pretty strong. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like grappling strong. So that doesn't mean I have to be some huge bodybuilder, you know what I mean? Or have a ton of, I'd probably be, as much weights that I lift, I'd probably be bigger if I ate more. Like for me, I don't eat enough to become like to have huge muscles, I mean, I'm muscular enough, but I don't, that's what it, you know what I mean? So it doesn't mean that you have to like be some huge meathead or something, but I've done it for 30 years.
Yeah.
30 years of going in the gym and strengthening, leg extension, squat, whatever it is. It doesn't have to be, but I mean, 30 years. So think about that. If you're younger, whoever you are, put a couple years in. I guarantee it'll change your perspective, your game. your mobility, your confidence, your injury prevention. I mean, that's a big one. And I really attribute a lot of that to my success in being injury free. I mean, I've trained jiu-jitsu for 8.5 years. I've had some injuries, don't get me wrong, but I've always trained consistently. I know people that are my age that train and it's like up and down, up and down. I can't train. I'm off 6 months. I'm always hurt. I'm this. I can't do this. I don't have those issues. You know, I can train confidently because I know I'm strong in different areas, you know, and that does affect your grappling. I'm sorry, but it does. And you're able to escape positions better. You're able to withstand certain attacks more when you have strength. That doesn't mean I'm muscling something at all. It means I'm stronger in that specific area of my body.
Yep, absolutely. And you have more time to tap.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Which is also a mechanism of injury prevention.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm strong I'm strong. I'm getting Kimura'd or whatever.
Yeah.
I'm strong there, and all I need is that extra split second to tap.
Yeah.
You know, that's it.
Yeah.
Or
that extra split second to throw reverse the Kimura
to escape,
or to grab your gi. You know, if you don't have that strength and the other person out strengthen you, he's going to rip your arm right out.
Home.
Yeah. So those are the things you don't think about. People, I used to really get bothered by it. It's like the whole you're strong in jiu-jitsu. I'm not. This isn't a brag because I've lost a lot of these competitions, but every time I've competed, that my partner, my opponent, has always said at the end, "Damn, you're strong." And I used to always just be like, take that as like, you know, you want them to say you're technical, but it is that, you know, they can feel it. And I felt that. I've went with guys that are my weight that feel stronger than me, believe it or not, you know. So, and these dudes were like me. You can tell they're working out. They're strong dudes, you know. So it's like I don't see it as a negative anymore because I just know it's not. You look at Gordon Ryan. Look at the best grapplers. I'm not even saying a big guy. Look at some of the smaller best grapplers. They're ripped and they're strong and they're doing strength training. So that whole thing, that mindset is like, it's one of those things like you can't attack legs. There's no honor in attacking legs, like Patrick was saying about. That's bye-bye. That's by the wayside. That's in the ancient past in this sport. Okay, so things evolve. What true sport do you know where the athletes don't excel more when they do strength training? There's not a one.
Not one.
So why would it be any different in jiu-jitsu? It doesn't mean you should out-strength or muscle everything. You still have to have skill. But if you have skill, technique, and strength, you're a step ahead.
Yep.
You know what I mean? Technique and strength versus just technique. Well, if me and some other person, if you can somehow measure the technique and we are exact, guess who's going to get the upper hand most of the time? The person that's stronger or that can withstand more.
Yep.
You know, I mean, it's simple. So get some strength training. I mean,
we harp on it all the time. You know, here's like you were going, you know, knee extension, leg press, whatever. Split squats, rear foot elevated split squats,
body weight squats. You don't even need a machine.
Like you don't even need a machine. And you know, when you're in that stand-up wrestling position, what position are you in? A split squat.
Yeah.
You know, a level change. Just do a level change, but pick up a kettlebell underneath you.
Yeah, exactly.
Boom. You're strength training. Oh, you don't have a kettlebell? Well, put your back foot on a wall.
Yeah.
And now you're doing a rear foot elevated split squat.
Yeah.
You know, like
even that 20-pound kettlebell. It might not seem like much, but guess what? You just increased your strength after doing a couple weeks of that, and then you build upon that. Well, it's better than not having it at all.
Here's another way that people can change, add tempo to things. So I like to program tempo things because it works on it works on muscular endurance, which we have to have. So if you're like, you know, you're passing somebody and it's like this incessant, like you have to just be constantly like pressing. Well, that takes muscle endurance and muscle energy. So add tempo to things. So 3 seconds to the bottom of the rep, 0 pause. 2 seconds to the top of the rep, 0 pause. You should constantly be moving with a 20-pound kettlebell. That's not easy.
No,
want to make
at
a
all.
push? Not want to make a push-up hard? Add tempo to it.
Yeah,
do a
exactly.
tempo push-up and tell me that's. I've add tempo to things and it changes the entire game, and it's another way to translate. That translates over to the mat.
Yeah, exactly.
Like that works on different physical attributes of the muscle itself. That's going to translate over to your grappling skills. So there's all kinds of creative ways that you have a 20-pound kettlebell, you can do a lot with a 20-pound kettlebell.
Yeah.
You know? So,
a lot.
Anyway,
lot. It's like everything else. You gotta apply yourself and take some time to do it. It's not always fun, but this is one of those things where you do it. If you look at it in terms of injury prevention, you just do it. You do it as part of a supplemental training, because if jiu-jitsu is your true passion, it doesn't mean you have to be some meathead and I'm going to go do strength training. I don't even like this. Maybe you don't like it at all. But think of it in terms of injury prevention and extending your jiu-jitsu career. I mean, longevity. Let's say that. There's many studies now that just say strength training alone increases longevity of life.
Yeah.
Like that alone should be a reason you should be doing something, incorporate something. And you'll benefit in your life, but also on the mat, and your longevity on the mat, and your performance on the mat, You're not going to just turn into some meathead that's going to just muscle everything. You know what I mean? Maybe you've been training jiu-jitsu and you're a blue belt and have never done strength training. It's not going to make you all of a sudden change your game. You're going to still work on jiu-jitsu is all about technique and skill, right? I mean, so that's what we learn. We don't learn to smash people with strength and do that guard pull takedown that we saw last week on social media, where the guy does the carousel with him. He just pulls the guy off the ground, does like a helicopter throw, which was amazing and effective in that clip. But that was some strength, so, but it shouldn't be a negative anymore. You know what I mean? It's like, now on the flip side, there's definitely grapplers out there. And you can see this even on the high level dudes, big giant dudes, black belts. They'll still be skilled. Don't get me wrong. They have technique, but they will slant to strength a lot of times.
Totally.
You can see it in their grappling. And I'm guilty of that as well. I'm 100% guilty of sometimes, definitely on sweeps, I felt myself muscling stuff where I'm like, oh, I totally just pulled. I only got that because I'm way stronger than this person. So I try to catch those moments and clean up the technique in that regard, but you got to be cognizant of it. But in terms of just feeling great out there, I feel really good most of the time. I say that when I'm on the podcast because I'm not just getting done with training and all sore as hell, So don't get me wrong. I say this is the best I've ever. I do feel great. I do strength training. I trained today in the gym. I did strength training today. I trained jiu-jitsu, but it's, as you're getting older, you want your body to perform. It just makes everything, you have to focus on everything so much more. Yeah, I know you've seen that as you're getting older. I'm in my 40s, so I definitely see it. It's like you have to keep your body strong. If I start slacking off, it's a lot harder to get back on that train and just start, making those gains again. I'm telling you, everyone sees that, and I've always said that stopping working out is the easiest thing to do. Getting back into it is the hardest thing to do. Mm-hmm. Nobody cares when you stop. It's like, but when you start having to get back those. I mean, even if I take a week off, I'm feeling weaker. Now I can honestly say that, man, because I've done it for so long. So then I have to start a little bit, dial it back a little bit, start building that strength up, So you have to look at it in terms of that.
Yeah.
You know, you can get as strong as hell in the next 5 years, and if you stop for 10 years, bye-bye strength. In 10 years, it'll you know, it deteriorates, you know. So it's got to be something you can incorporate in your everyday training. And, you know, most people that train jiu-jitsu plan on doing it. You know, if you're making it past the blue belt into the deeper belts and you're serious about the sport, you want to do it for a while.
Man, I hate seeing when purple belts, you know, if they drop out at purple belt, it's like, man, you're right there.
I used to train with a brown belt a lot in the early bird, and he's still a brown belt. I haven't seen him in years. A couple of them. To me, that's crazy. Because you get to brown belt. But, you know, life sometimes gets in the way, and, you know, it doesn't take long to not, I'm sure, I haven't experienced this, but I'm sure it doesn't take long. Once you take a few weeks off, turns into a month, turns into 2, and it's like, yeah, I'm a brown belt, but I think sometimes maybe, I know this is probably the case, but if you can distance yourself from your experience in jiu-jitsu for a couple months, you're probably like, geez, that's hard, you know? Or man, it could be a lot harder to get back into.
Yeah,
I've
and
experienced,
it's
true.
just like strength training.
Exactly. I was just going to say that. It's the exact same thing. It's like, you know, it's like you're going to have to dial it in mentally, get over those hurdles, and not to mention you're getting the crap beat out of you, or people are trying to beat the shit out of you in jiu-jitsu all the time, you know, or at least, you know, you don't know what you're going to get. You might roll with 5 different people, and like 3 of those people are training for tournaments. They're in, you know, they might be 10, 20 years younger than you, in my experience, you know. So you got to be tough, you know. So I can see how people fall out of it. But I also struggle because I think if you're purple belt, brown belt, you have a passion. And it's just unfortunate if you don't continue that through. Not only just because you're not getting your black belt, but just as a passion.
Yeah.
Just as a passion that you want to do forever, you know. You're losing out on that. And that's, to me, would be my biggest miss if I did that right now. I'm like, obviously, the goal is to get a black belt, but continue to keep training. But I just want this hobby in my life. So that's where I see people. I'm like, man, you've been doing this for 7, 8, 10 years. You're purple belt, brown belt, and it's like, and now it doesn't interest you anymore. That's a little weird to me, but maybe they find some other passion to do, you know, and that's totally fine too. And everyone's experience is different, you know. Mm-hmm. You can get a purple belt that's been very committed and training all the time, and they just kind of maybe get burned out. Maybe their experience isn't like, you know, maybe they don't have the friendships, or maybe they moved, you know. In one of my guys' cases, he actually moved away from our gym. Mm-hmm. And so he's still a brown belt, but he never really kind of found another home to train jiu-jitsu. So a lot of different experiences out there, but went from no gi training to strength training to not training. Man, you got to just. I think it all goes well together though, because if you're, you know, you have to understand if you're training in the gi, you're probably very familiar with it. You start picking up no gi, you're doing something, or vice versa. Yeah, you know, you have to realize this is a long game. Both of those, you know. And that's how I look at it. It's like, I didn't want to just keep training in the gi, even though, yeah, I could just excel in the gi. But I'm like, I definitely want to just be well-rounded. Because who's to say where you're going to be in 10 years? As I get older and wiser, that's how I look at things. I'm like, 10 years down the road, I might have a different experience. Maybe I move somewhere and I'm training at a different, maybe the only gym available is a no-gi gym. Do I want to be a black belt that's never done no-gi, like doesn't know the no-gi game? To me, that doesn't make sense. Like, so but that's me. I want to be skilled. If I have I meet somebody through this podcast or somebody, and let's say they're a no-gi let's say we do an on location, the Road to Black podcast somewhere in the future, or we have a studio where both of us are together in the same state, and we have mats in the studio. Okay, you know where listeners, you know where our podcast is going. Someday, studio, both of us in the same room, live guests, mats. If we have Gordon Ryan on our show, we have to be able to grapple with him there.
For sure.
I don't want to be a black belt and go, I can't, I don't know how to defend. Like, no.
Yeah.
That's just my experience, though. I just want to I want to know all the skills. I want to know all the skills. Now, I understand that I can't be an expert. It's going to take a long time to be an expert in both, let's say. And that could take my entire life. And I'll probably still be learning. But as long as I'm having fun with it and training smart, that's, and that's all you can do. It's just different skill set. It's just different. So, not to say that I don't have a ton of work in the gi left, you know what I mean? But that's the beauty of it. So for me, it changes it up once a week. I really enjoy it that way. It really does challenge my mind after being years and years and years in the gi. Now it's like, it really does, man. It's like opened my eyes to a whole nother game. So I'm trying to study that on the side. I'd like to get some, being in my 40s, I'll say this. I would love to train more jiu-jitsu, but we could have another podcast on talking just about how to not train jiu-jitsu to prevent injury. Because I would love to go every day, but I literally have to not. I train with guys, young guys. I train with guys in their 20s and their 30s that train every day.
Yeah.
I can't do that.
Yep.
I just can't. I know I can't do all jiu-jitsu because I still want to do some strength training. So it's a very fine balance, of how much, and it's always a work in progress. Mm-hmm. So I'm doing gi jiu-jitsu. I'm doing strength training. I'm trying to get some no-gi in there. What's the balance? Mm-hmm. If I move more to, let's go 2 or 3 days of no-gi jiu-jitsu. Well, guess what's going to suffer? My gi game. I won't be able to train as much gi. Yeah, so that's depending on your age and your circumstance and your health and your physicality. Those are things you have to consider.
Totally.
And just understand that it's a long haul, right? I mean, I would love to just have be a 20-year-old with just full of piss and vinegar where I can train 2 times a week like some of my friends, 2 times a day, I should say, like some people I know. I can't do it. That's the thing. The unfortunate thing is when you're getting older, your body's just not going to respond that way, so no matter what sport you're in. That's why most pro sports, you're not seeing 47-year-olds playing in the NBA.
That's right.
So, they're kind of legends by that time. But in this sport, you can train, you can compete as an amateur at that age, which is beautiful, but you have to take care of your body. You have to keep it strong. Go look at the masters. Most masters divisions, and I very cognizant of this when I was at Master Worlds. Look at the athletes and some of the older, and I'm saying Master 5, 6. Some of the real older ones, they're physically fit, fit.
Yeah,
you don't see anybody that's not healthy because they're probably not trained at that age. When you're getting into your 50s, 60s, some of these people are training. You won't be able to train as much if you don't take care of your body. So, and that's injury prevention on the mats, not getting heel hooked by a white belt, strength training, all of the above. So,
are we going to see you at Masters World this year?
I just got my IBJJF registration set up, so I'm looking to do it, but I just have to figure it out. I'm traveling a lot in the fall.
Gotcha.
And I'm traveling to Maui like 2 weeks before Master World. So,
dude, that's rough.
That's a tough one. So I'd have to make some real. I don't know if I want to go to Maui and not go to Maui and drink some cocktails and eat what I want. So I think it's 3 weeks. So I'll just have to plan it out. I do want to though, but I also probably need to compete before then. Yeah. I've only competed like one time in the last 3 years with COVID and everything. So, but I have some friends that are inspiring me to get back on the mats, and it's a great challenge. I use competitions as a challenge. So, but it is. This is not an excuse. I am a super busy person. My days are booked from the moment I wake up to the moment I go to bed. As you know this
Yep.
very well about
Yep.
about me,
Both of us.
both
Yep.
of us. So I have a lot of projects going on. The biggest thing for me with competition, 100%, is how do I fit competing into my mental and physical abilities for that preparation. That's it. Like I know I train a lot. I'm skilled enough to compete. For me, it's like as soon as I sign up, the mental focus, everything changes, and that's just my personality. I'm not the type that I can block it out until the day of the event. I don't think there's many people that do, but I don't. That's a mental stressor for me. I'm running a couple businesses, to have that on me. It's something. It's not to say I won't do it, but it's something I have to consider.
For sure.
Can I take that extra mental load on and physical load? Because I have to train more. I'm not in competition shape. I'm rolling a lot and training, but I've just the last 2 weeks, I've just been rolling the last 2 weeks. So I literally had a couple months where I wasn't really rolling. So
yeah,
I don't want to, I always say you got to kind of, especially the bigger events like Master Worlds, you have to be prepared, and you have to give it the credit that it deserves and the respect, because the people that you're training against or competing against are going to be coming for you and training hard. So that's the thing for me. Am I going to be able to ramp it up or come up with some kind of season, like you say, plan it to where I can get a competition or at least just great training leading up to it. But I'm going literally the month before, I'm going on like 2 vacations. So it's tough, man, with all these tournaments and trying to do your family life. And this trip is obviously very important to me. So it's where I can get my whole family together for a week. So I don't know. We'll see if I compromise.
To be determined.
Yeah, to be determined. I would love to compete. I'm really thinking I want to do it. I definitely do. But I'm like, because we had this trip planned and then they announced that it was in November. I'm like, oh, shit. Yeah. It's just a timing thing, because normally Master Worlds is always in August.
Yeah.
So that's what I was used to. So we'll see. How about you?
I've got some IBJJF issues right now, so
figure that out.
I'm hoping that is figured out and resolved by then.
Got a few months.
I wanted to do this Kansas City, but I don't think it's going to be resolved by the time the Kansas City competition registration's closed. So
yeah,
we'll see. I'm hoping to get that squared away as soon as possible. So
nice. We'll see, man. There's a lot of competitions coming back. So I want to get back out there and challenge myself. I mean, see what I need to work on. That's what they always show me. The competitions, like one way or another, you're gonna see what you need to work on, see what works out there. So anyway, we will also we're working on getting a couple more guests lined up for the show. I think I have 3 people in mind that we've talked about. Next week, guys, we're probably going to take a break. I'll be out of town, so follow it up in a couple weeks. We'll see everybody back. Have a safe week of training, and we're out of here.